In this video, you're going to learn the pros and cons about the new Haas weighted hooks and the new Jigheads. Some are great for the shallows, some are great for the deeper water, some have better hookup ratios, some are better at being weedless, and so very important to know the pros and cons of each so that you can select the right one to make sure you maximize your results. If you use these properly, you'll be surprised at how effective they are, and the fact that we have so many options. Yes, it does get a little bit more complex, but for those who are more skilled, you can really fine tune and make sure that you have the perfect retrieve based on the situations that you're covering. And if you're less experienced, I'll explain the core things to have so that you can have what you need without getting too confused. And just in case you're curious on how these look while rigged, we'll show how they're rigged and also what lures are best for the specific sizes. We'll do that at the end. First, let's go ahead and cover just the overall need for these items. So these are all in columns. So first column is the weighted hooks. This is when you need to fish the shallows. It's really hard to beat. In most cases, we're going to be fishing shallow water with structure, whether it's docks, mangroves, oysters, rocks. Whether we're talking about redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, really most inshore species, even triple tail around buoys, these are awesome because you can take a lure, in this case we'll have a power prawn, you can rig it so that this hook point is basically right flush up against the lure. You can be super weedless in this nice wide gap that has a really good hookup ratio. When the fish bites it, it'll expose the hook, and now you can catch your fish without the risk of getting snagged. So incredibly helpful. This has been a game changer for me. I used to use the traditional worm hooks where it doesn't have the weight on the shank of the hook, and once I switched to the weighted hooks, my catch rate totally skyrocketed. What it does is it not only does it help you get down a little bit deeper more effectively, but it also keeps it keeled. It keeps it so that the lure is less likely to helicopter. When you're doing retrieve, if you have a non-weighted hook and it's not rigged absolutely perfectly, what'll happen is during the retrieve, it'll start spinning like this, and that is the best way to not catch fish. That's not a natural motion in the water. Conversely, when you have the weighted hook, it'll keep it keeled, so even if it's not perfect, it'll at least be darting or doing some sort of natural motion because it'll stay upright and just look more lifelike. So highly recommend if you're fishing shallows, and I'll say shallows, we'll say 2.5 feet or less, weighted hooks are crucial, and make sure to use one of these options. So as you see, there are now multiple options, and these weighted hooks from Haas are called the Helix hooks. So that they used to have the Helix corkscrew. This is actually the owner twist lock. These things are awesome. This is a game changer if you're using a lot of soft plastics, to be able to have this point go through the soft plastic as a little pilot. It makes rigging so much easier. So as for sizes, the hook sizes, there's 3/0 and 4/0. So as far as keeping it simple, I like these 4/0 hooks for pretty much all soft plastics that are over 4 inches, right? So 4/0 over 4 inches. And then for the 3/0 hooks, basically anything from 2.5 up to 4 inches. That's basically what I go with. As far as weight sizes go, we do have the 1/16, 1/8, and 3/16. So you can customize your actual depth coverage for the more advanced people, right? This lighter one, this is gonna be better for skipping up under mangroves. It'll also be better for sight fishing, to have just a little bit less splash on the entry. And then if you're going to be fishing deeper water, if you're going to be fishing maybe 2.5 up to 3 feet of water, and you need to be weedless, that's where this 3/16 come into play, right? We have the 3/0 and the 4/0, both with all 3 sizes of the weights. So long story short, if you're going to be fishing shallow water, make sure to have some of these weighted hooks. These are game changers for using soft plastics up in the shallows, especially if you need to be weedless. As far as size comparisons and what to match with what, there's a chart on the product page, and I'll put a link down below for that. It's on fishstrong.com. These are only available at fishstrong.com, and there'll be a very helpful sizing chart for that. So let's go to this next section, the middle section. These are the football jigs. These are the Haas football jigs. As you can see, there's a lot of different sizes. We have it going from very shallow, 1/8 ounce, all the way up to the deeper water, up to 1 ounce. And the core purpose of this column, these Haas football jigs, is when you need to get down deeper and you don't have to be weedless, right? Because these hooks are going to be exposed. So here's how a lure looks on it, right? You can see that this hook is exposed. It's going to be bouncing the bottom. I love this football shape for these shrimp lures in particular, because that football shape will help make sure that it doesn't rotate around on the bottom. It stays nice and upright. Again, it stays natural. I used to use round jig heads, and then as soon as I switched to the footballs, I saw my catch rate go up. So now I actually use the footballs for these power prawns. I also even use it for paddle tails as well. because bounce at the bottom, it is nice to not rotate on the bottom. But as you can see with this hook point is exposed, so this is not what you want to throw. If you're going to be bouncing around rocks, you're going to have a high likelihood of getting snagged. I use these when I'm fishing areas that I know there's not a lot of bottom structure, like when I'm fishing snook on the beach, or if I'm fishing inlets where there's just a lot of sand and I'm bouncing along the depth contours. This is awesome. The exposed hook is a big benefit. If a fish eats this lure, this hook point is very exposed and is very sharp, and it's going to catch the fish. But if you're bouncing around structure, same thing, right? If you're going to be bouncing around the structure, this hook point is exposed and there's going to be a likelihood of getting snagged. And to solve that snag issue, we went ahead and made these weedless football jigs. These things are awesome. What this does is it enables you to get down deep, right? Get down deep just like these traditional jig heads, but you can do so in a way that you actually stay weedless. Let me go ahead and pull over one of the lures. So this is the Power Prawn USA Junior. This is what I've personally been using most lately during the winter months. The fish usually like smaller prey, and I'm targeting around docks, around rocks, around hard structure and deeper water. And this has been absolutely deadly, where I can bounce off of mangrove roots, I can bounce over rocks without getting snagged. And then when I do get that strike, right, we have this nice wide gap hook on there. When the strike does happen, that hook gets exposed and you catch the fish. But while you're bouncing over the structure and through the structure, this hook point is flush with the lure. Or if you're going super heavy structure, you can actually embed the hook just slightly. It's called skin hooking. And now you're extra weedless while still being able to get down in the structure. These are the newest of the Haas jig heads, and they're quickly becoming my favorite because of the huge advantage of not getting snagged when fishing tight to structure. Whether going after redfish, sea trout, snook, flounder, all species, they're ambush predators. They like to hold near structure to ambush their prey, also for protection from dolphin. And so to be able to confidently get a lure right down there next to the structure without getting snagged, this has been a total game changer for me. So if you haven't yet tried these and you're fishing deeper structure, highly recommend giving them a shot. And as far as sizing goes, same thing as before, right? We have a detailed listing of what lures fit best for each size, as well as what depth ranges each of these sizes can carry. And we have that in a helpful table on the product page. So if you're interested in staying weedless in the deeper water, make sure to check out these Haas weedless football jigs. If you're fishing more open water and you need to get deep, check out these Haas football jigs. And if you're going to be fishing the shallows and you need to be weedless, that's where these Haas helix hooks come into play and have the biggest advantage. And just so you can see how different lures look on these different jig heads and weighted hooks, here's just a quick assembly. This is at least my personal favorite ways to rig these items. And we'll start over from left to right. We're basically going from shallow to deep. And what we have first are the helix hooks, right? This is the 3/0 for both the Power Prawn USA Junior as well as the Mulligan. 3/0 is awesome. This is 3.5 inches. This is 4 inches. So again, we need to have, if it's 4 inches or less, the 3/0 hook is generally best. And if it's over 4 inches, then we go over here to the 4/0. So we have the Power Prawn USA Original. This is 4.3 inches. The Slam Shady Bomber. This is a big 5-inch paddle tail that's nice and bulky. This 4/0 will have the best hookup ratio for that situation. Now we're going to go into the football jigs. We have the Power Prawn USA, and this is the nub style. So in case the bait or the prey in the area is very small, this is why I love soft plastics. You actually can use the soft plastic and tear off the tail, right? I tore off the tail. This was 3.5 inches. Now it's about 2.25, and I rigged it on this nice small jig head. This is actually the 2/0 hook with the 1/8 ounce weight. And for the bigger lures, right, we have bigger size hooks for these jig heads. So this is the 4/0 hook with the 1/4 ounce weight. This is great for skipping docks that I'm familiar with, that I know there's not a lot of structure on the bottom, or for fishing some deeper grass areas. So again, exposed hook, better hookup ratio, but more risk of getting snagged. And then as far as deep, while still being weedless, this is where these new Haas weedless football jigs come into play. These things have been my personal favorites lately. I've been using these more often than not. And this is the 3/0 hook for the Power Prawn USA Juniors. And then we have the 4/0 hook for the bigger Power Prawn. And for refishing, that's when I go with these much heavier weights. This is a 3/4 ounce weedless football jig head. This exact setup is my personal favorite for refishing for cobia, grouper, snook, all sorts of fish. Everything eats it, and it has been an absolute blast to fish with. And one question we've been getting is, hey, can I use these weedless jig heads for paddle tails? The answer is absolutely yes. I've been using it for the Mulligan as well as a variety of others, and it's been working great. So as you can see, right, you can still get down there deep, but the benefit versus a traditional jig head is that now this hook point is flush with the lure. You can stay super weedless while still having a good hookup ratio, because this nice wide gap will significantly increase the odds of getting hooks while you're rigged weedless. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions about these 3 different types of jig heads, please leave a comment down below. And if you're interested in trying any of these, I'll put a link down below for each of the respective product pages. Again, Haas Helix hooks for the shallows, the Haas football jig heads for getting deep and just maximizing your hookup percentage, and then the Haas weedless footballs for getting down deep near structure. And given how important depth control is, as well as being weedless, I now carry some of all of these options in my tackle tray on every trip. This is the most important part of my tackle box. I have some of everything so that I'm ready for whatever conditions I face. As mentioned before, these products are only available at fishstrong.com, and you Insider Club members, you get them all at 20% off, so you can save a ton of money over time. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon.